Hello, everybody. This innovative company is at the forefront of green technology, but with a twist. I mean, they're making waves by harnessing the raw power of nature and bringing it into our homes in a captivating line of consumer based renewable energy tech. This is their signature, the consumer based aspect. Let me introduce Nature Power. Hi everyone, this is Sam. Welcome to another episode of Builder Nation. Today we are joined by Dan Kruger, CEO and President at Nature Power. Welcome, Dan. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's actually a really it's a pleasure. Could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. No, thanks for having me. I was looking forward to this. I think you guys are doing a really good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Nature Power Products has been a consumer solar company for more than 10 years. I've been in the industry myself for 27 years, so pretty much since the inception of consumer solar.
Hmm.
And we basically our goal was to provide renewable energy products with a consumer angle to them. So we really kind of simplify the message. We try to break down the barriers of people feeling intimidated by solar energy or electronics in general.
Hmm.
And we also try to marry different technologies. So we might take the cutting edge solar technology, marry it with lithium technology, and then
Mm.
also utilize the latest LED technology. And the result of that would be some new products that are solutions for people around the home, around the farm,
Hmm.
that type of thing.
Wow, this is actually pretty cool. Thank you very much for sharing all of that. And we're going to be definitely delving very deep into this consumer based sort of motto, right, if you will. But before we begin, before all of this, I always like to understand where all of this is coming from. So, Dan, can you please give us an overview of how Nature Power sort of addressed this consumer based market and why you chose to address it very specifically for this consumer based rather than the typical solar power that just builds very massively and very technically sort of these devices and shares it around that way? Can you please give us what
Sure.
sparked this?
Yeah, I mean, as with most things in life, we kind of stumbled upon it by accident. I worked very young age. I worked for a small importer, and they brought in all kinds of gadgets. And
Hmm.
one of the gadgets they brought in was a little solar battery maintainer that they claimed would charge up your vehicle's battery, your car battery, if
All
you plugged
right.
it in a cigarette lighter.
Okay.
And we just treated it like any of the widgets that we were importing. What we realized was it was getting a lot of interest. It really didn't do a lot, but it was getting a lot of interest. People were curious.
Hmm.
And we decided that we would kind of morph out of the gadgets and focus more on different size solar panels, keeping in mind that we would have color packaging, great manuals, really good sales support. And so we expanded the line. So fast forward, that company, I left and started my own business, had some partners, sold that business, started Nature Power, I think it was 12 years ago now. And we realized that there was a real appetite for solar energy on the consumer level.
Right.
And by that I mean, everyone drives a car. We tried to make more of a mass appeal as opposed to just a niche market.
Hmm.
There was plenty of companies out there making large solar panels for your home, for street signs, construction
Right.
sites, that type of thing. But there wasn't really anyone making smaller solar panels for people that want to just be off the grid. Maybe they're hiking and they just want to have something to charge their cell phone. Maybe they have a cottage or a lake house and they don't have power and they just or a
Hmm.
farmhouse and they just want to run some lights. Some people want emergency preparedness, a little bit bigger kit, but still consumer oriented, where they just said, hey, we get blackouts every 3 months because of storms. We'd like to have something to back up our refrigerator, that type of thing. So
Right.
we kind of that whole range. And through many years of trial and error and testing different markets, we aligned ourselves with some pretty major retailers, Home Depot and Walmart and those. But we also realized that the real appetite for this type of product was still
Hmm.
kind of in the niche category. RVers,
Right.
boat owners. Boat owners would want a flexible solar panel or a small wind turbine.
Hmm.
RVers would like a bigger solar panel that could lay flat on their roof. And so we started to custom manufacture specific products for those types of markets.
Hmm.
And then we'd go to like a West Marine or a Camping World and utilize their distribution and their customer base and their expertise within that industry.
Right.
And we would offer our expertise in our industry, and they really complemented each other. So that's kind of how we came to be.
Right. And I have a couple questions that arise from this. The very first one is one trend that I did notice while you were giving these sort of use cases and examples is portability. Was the portability a major thing when you started Nature Power in terms of if I'm gonna build like these solar panels or these kits, as you mentioned, uh, was it always meant to be portable so the RV could install and deinstall it whenever they didn't need it anymore? Or are they rather meant for sort of, just install it in your RV or in your boat or in the farms that you made the example of and sort of just let it be? What was this idea?
I would say it certainly started out as portable being the main one of the main important features that we would offer,
Mm,
simply because it wasn't being marketed. It wasn't out on the market, and so
that's
we
true.
saw an opportunity. We saw an opening in the market. Um, More recently, efficiencies have increased with solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
Flexible technology and folding solar panels have increased in their performance and their quality. And so we continue to put a big focus on the portable side of things. But we also branch out a little bit more into smaller portable emergency power systems. So
Mm-hmm.
perhaps, for example, I think the biggest we go now is 800 watts. So four
Oh, that's
200 watts. So
right.
4 200-watt solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
And then we include an inverter, we include all the cables and everything you can just plug and play. So that's kind of like
Wow.
a a main tagline that we've always utilized is when we sell something, it's plug and play. You don't need tools,
Wow.
you don't need electricians, you don't need permits. You simply take it out of the box. We include everything you need. So you also don't have to go buy a whole lot of
Mm-hmm.
different supplies. And you can be up and running in some cases in minutes. And
Right.
the wind turbines are a little bit bigger project, but in terms of anything solar, within half an hour, any of our products would be up and running.
I have to say, I have never heard of a solar power like company or products that can be sort of do it yourself kind of project. Because I mean, coming from a solar company myself, I understand that typically the way this looks is you buy your solar panels, they make your quotation or whatever, and you need,
Yep.
I don't know, 20 panels, but then you need a whole crew of installers to go and do the whole electric installations and the inverters and everything. It's quite a project, and it can go on for days or weeks sometimes.
Right.
It's kind of amusing that you literally do these plug and play solutions for anybody to install. And this comes also with the question of how customizable can these solutions be? You mentioned that at the beginning, you started all of these projects as as a custom order first, but then you have
Yep.
migrated now to these sort of pre-installed kits and whatnot. How much customization can a person, if they want to buy it, can they expect from these products?
Right. Well, the first part of your comments question, in terms of you haven't heard of someone doing this. I mean, essentially, when we came on the market, there were companies making solar garden lights.
Hmm.
Little, you see them now at the dollar store
Right,
or Home
right.
Depot or Walmart, 10 of them for $15 or what have you. And so you've got that market. And then you've got the market that you were describing, which would be the residential or the
And
industrial
right.
solar. So we felt there was no one in between,
Hmm.
and we wanted to fill that void. And as a result, we don't try to be either of those. We don't want to be the disposable solar garden light
Of course.
company, and we're not trying to be the company that will outfit your home or your little HOA village with solar panels. We we kind of picked our lane and we never veered off of it. And
Hmm.
that's why we found success after so many years. It's a market where we only focus on off grid. So everything is pretty much 12 volts.
Hmm.
And so it's all battery running off
Right,
batteries.
right.
And then we include everything you need to get that power. So we create the power, obviously, with the solar panels or from the wind turbines, but then we convert the power with our power inverters. We include all the necessary cables, and then the customer themselves would use just a typical 12-volt battery, or nowadays more and more lithium batteries, and that would complete their system. The second part of your question, in terms of how modular are they, or how can people
Mm-hmm.
customize the system, that is actually the great thing about off-grid solar. You can start with a single, because let me just back up.
Yeah.
One of the most common questions we've had since day one, so 20 plus years of this, is what do I need for my system? Or I don't know what I need to buy. And so the messaging on our packaging and our website and our customer service and tech support is always trying to help answer that question. And you can only answer that question in a general way,
Right.
because everybody has a different amount of light and sunlight, and everyone's trying to run different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you can do a pretty good job generalizing. And you know that a little 2-watt solar panel is not going to run air conditioning, for example. Or you know
Right.
that 800 watts of solar are not necessary to run a light. So you can make some generalizations.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do is we make the entry level package very affordable, and then we pave the way to simply add panels or add a bigger inverter or add a second battery or a battery bank
Oh.
if you want. And that way people aren't buying something, falling in love with it, having to either throw it out or sell it or not use it and buy a bigger one and then buy a bigger one. Like we're not in the
Mm-hmm.
business of selling someone the same thing 3 times.
Right.
We're in,
No.
we're in the business of selling someone a starter kit and then helping them expand the kit as they feel necessary, if they feel necessary.
And do you accompany them during their journey, sort of discovering exactly what they need, or how much output or power they need for their needs to meet their
So
needs?
a lot of times, yes.
Mm.
Because we partner with large retailers, the Home Depots and Camping
Yeah,
Worlds of the
it's
world,
hard.
um, we don't always have direct contact with the end user,
Mm-hmm.
and that always makes it challenging. But we do make our technical support widely available for anybody.
Mm.
And I keep an eye on a lot of the dialogue between our tech support staff and the end users, because it helps me understand if we're running into challenges, if our messaging isn't correct, ways we can improve our products. And so I keep an eye on all of that. And I do notice that there's a lot of the same familiar names in touch year after year with our
Mm-hmm.
tech team. So I can tell that they're adding to their system or building, starting kind of a solar journey, if you will.
Right. Yeah, because there's also one very interesting thing that I want to ask you, which is part of what you answered, right? Which is that one of the most common questions has been this, since day one, has been about this of how do you do it basically, or how do you plug it by yourself. In these 12 plus years that Nature Products have, that Nature Power, sorry, has pretty much been doing is consumer based projects and consumer based work. How challenging has it been on the educational side? I have a feeling that, generally speaking, people are now more accustomed to solar power and renewable energy sources. But 12 years ago, that was not the case, definitely.
Right.
So, how challenging was it to be the first to come in, sit down, and share to the end user, hey, this is solar power, it's gonna work, just learn about it. How was this educational journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing journey. But the journey has actually gotten easier over time, uh, because of the explosive growth of solar and renewable in general.
Hmm.
So even though we as a company, Nature Power, are not engaging in residential, industrial, commercial solar systems, the fact that that business has exploded
Hmm.
globally, and the fact that the majority of the world recognizes, the global warming and what have you, the green initiatives around the world,
Right.
that alone has helped people get more familiar with how solar works. And so even though we don't compete or we don't even interact with that market, we've benefited from all of that discussion in the news because people then naturally see our stuff at, like I said, at a large retailer,
Right.
and they feel a little bit more comfortable. We've also learned over the years different ways to simplify the message, but also how to get across to a customer quickly. And some of it's ways that you wouldn't think. I mean, for example, we're so deeply vested in this that sometimes we lose touch of what other people might know or what other people might assume. So it's quite interesting. I mean, I remember many years ago, I was actually trying to explain to a family member what we actually do,
Uh
and they couldn't really understand why they would
huh.
want that or need that. And I actually was looking at my calculator on my desk, and it had a little solar panel on it. And I
All
said,
right, the typical ones that run
right,
out and you have to put it.
that literally everybody
Yeah.
has. And I said, you know, the calculator you have on your desk, how it doesn't use batteries. Yeah, it's got a little, I said, that's a solar panel. That solar panel is what's running the LED to work your calculator. Oh, okay, I get it. Like it was that simple. And we used that example moving forward, and it really resonated with people that had no idea how solar worked.
Wow.
And so sometimes you have to really dummy down and simplify the message. And that's not to say you're dealing with dummies. You just
No,
have
of
to
course not.
really people automatically think solar is complicated. Salespeople
Expensive.
are expensive, intimidated. People don't want to go because it's like it's electrical. I mean, there's
Hmm.
voltage and amperage and wattage.
It's dangerous.
And if you go in the wrong store to buy it, you might get mixed messages of what you need,
Hmm.
and people leave confused. So we have now had quite a few years of packaging, messaging, manuals, signage in stores, training store salespeople, doing webinar. Technology has really been our friend. I mean, utilizing
Yeah.
webinars and online training and that type of thing. And it's been a long journey, but it's been a successful journey because people are starting to really understand the basics of solar, and it makes it a lot easier to focus on new innovative products because you have to spend less time educating them on actually how
Hmm.
solar works as opposed to what that product will do to solve a problem for them or increase, enhance their lifestyle.
Right, and that is something that I do believe is in partially, thank you partially to what you said, to this technology, these webinars, this broad information available out there. Anybody can nowadays just go into YouTube, for example, watch a video on how solar works, which I believe is very useful. So thank you
Yep.
for that answer. It actually was pretty cool. Now, moving a little into this tech side of what you do, I'm very curious because on your website you have, you have this sort of section that says your products, right? And
Mhm.
if you go a little bit into sort of these these additional services and products and sort of the more specific ones, there is one part that says briefcase solar kits, right? Which is essentially what you mentioned about these kits that you can just take, I don't know, with a hiking or something, right?
Mhm.
How difficult was it to go from something as general as a solar panel and mold it into these very specific and very sort of condensed but efficient kits, as these briefcase, as the folding panels, as the power kits, etc.? How was this R&D journey?
Like nothing is kind of as it seems. For example, initially I wasn't behind the initial launch of that product.
Hmm.
As with a lot of our products, one of our customers, actually Camping World,
Hmm.
had given us the idea that we should do a briefcase style solar panel.
Hmm.
And this is a great lesson in don't always think you understand someone else's market. I thought personally that RVers want flat solar panels, they want to put them on their roof, and that's what they want.
Hmm.
And to a large extent, that is what they want. However, as with every industry, it's ongoing, it's changing, it's fluid. And so we decided we would develop the briefcase solar panels with Camping World in mind. I didn't
Hmm.
actually believe that they would be a large success. Fast forward 8 or 9 years, they're one of the best sellers at Camping World.
Wow.
And I believe the reason for that, and now we have, this past year, we've had three models of them: a 40 watt, an 80 watt, and 120 watt.
Hmm.
Part of the reason is what we understand is people want to be able to go RVing or camping, pull out their briefcase solar panel, set it up, get it, it starts working immediately. But then 3 days, 4 days, a week later, when they're done camping or RVing, they want to be able to fold it up, store it under their storage in their bed or whatever, and use it the next time they want to use it. They don't actually need to use it year round. And
Right.
it this is kind of the story of our product mix and how it's morphed into new products, because that we started with one model, we added two after we saw the success of those, and once we realized that that was a very viable category for us, we then launched a soft-sided briefcase, because the
Mm.
hard-sided briefcase panels do very well with a specific market, but they're
Right.
still a little bit too heavy if you're a hiker or a backpacker. So we thought, well, what if we do the same concept, but we use thin film flexible solar panels with a soft-sided case. So it greatly reduces the weight by about
Wow.
75%. It's very portable. You can fold it. And sure enough, we're finding great success with those as well.
Hmm.
Um, the second part of the answer for that is what also has driven us to offer more than just a solar panel is our customers, the retailers, they don't want a customer to have to go buy your solar panel and then have to find four more components to make it work.
Hmm.
They want everything to be in one box. They
Right.
want to have one solution.
The plug and play.
There's nothing, yeah, there's nothing
Right.
worse than going to a store to buy something, going home and realizing you got to go back to buy something else.
Right.
And so the majority of our products now are plug and play solutions. So everything comes with it: the cables, the charge controllers, the solar, etc. And that works very well at retail. It works really well with customer satisfaction. And then we also offer just the solar panels for people that want to add on to their kits, as we discussed earlier.
Hmm. Wow. That's actually, I mean, it's pretty cool how these very like this request, as you mentioned, transformed into a whole line of products. And actually, with this comes another question that I have. So you already mentioned that you one day it sort of clicked with you, right? Hey, what if we use flexible panels to make these lighter and smaller, keep the same concept just for a broader market, right? So my question here is, whenever new tech emerges, right, it sort
Yeah.
of makes this boom. How do you embrace it? How do you see it for the first time and say, this could work potentially with this application or with this system or with this or as an extension of maybe this kit, for example? How do you sort of brainstorm these new tech emerging to really make the best of it?
I mean, that's a good question. It's kind of less exciting than you might hope. It seems like every time we internally develop new products that we feel are going to be great solutions or great sellers in the market, it
Hmm.
doesn't always turn out that way. We found over the years that listening to uh, the customer could be the end user indirectly.
Right.
It could be the retailer. It could be competitive companies that have some good ideas that maybe they haven't executed correctly.
Right. True.
We So we borrow ideas from other people. We certainly listen to people. And for example, I'm not an avid hiker, but I'll listen to hikers because they know what they want when they're out in the
Of
wilderness.
course.
Because I might think 4 pounds is perfectly fine to go hiking with, and they might say, no, no one's going to travel with a 4 pound solar panel. So it's important to listen. And what we do is we collect a lot of information. We do a lot of initial kind of market studies. But before we actually launch a product, we test it for months and months. Believe it or not, sometimes into like close to a year, we'll
Wow.
test products because there's nothing worse than buying something that doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
I
And
agree. Yeah.
the challenge with solar energy is it's there's nothing concrete about it. You might have a week of rain. You might have more usage than you thought you had. And so you always want to under promise and over deliver. You want to always make sure that the customer is going to be happy. And to do that properly, you need to do real life testing, not
Hmm.
just laboratory testing is important for safety, for circuitry, for initial testing. But at
Right.
the end of the day, you got to make sure it works in the real world. And that's what we do. I mean, we're testing a lot of new products right now, and we're always feeding the product food chain with new ideas, and
Hmm.
some of them make it and some of them don't. And there's a lot of moving parts. It's the solar is just, believe it or not, it's sometimes a smaller part. Sometimes it's
Cool.
the battery technology, sometimes it's the LED technology, and right now we're working on these new solar fans, which are really, really cool. And
Wow.
and where we're heading with all of with most of our products, I should say,
Uh-huh.
is perpetual use. So it's one thing to say I have a solar kit and it'll help run your light for 4 hours. Okay,
Right.
you know what? A lot of people would love that because maybe that's all they need. But there's a lot of people that are like, well, then what do I do? Well, then you
Right.
have to wait 24 hours to run it again for 4 hours. And they're like, well, I don't really like that idea. It's the same argument with electric cars, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But but we're now getting to a point where battery technology has caught up. Solar efficiency is fantastic. And so now, and other electronics have become very efficient. And so now we've got lights that'll run perpetually. Now we're working on a fan that will run 24 hours a day off a small solar
yeah.
panel.
Wow.
And these are the products that I believe will have mass appeal, not only for North America, which has a huge appetite for consumer products, but
Right.
also other countries, third world countries, countries that are riddled with storms and blackouts and horrible weather patterns. And those people then can start utilizing these products for, I wouldn't go as far as saying life saving, but certainly help you through a disaster.
Right. That is actually one question that I had that I wanted previously to go for, right? Which is these devices, the way you describe them, the very fact that they're plug and play by anybody, to me automatically triggers this idea that it could potentially be a first response kind of kit, right? I mean, and we've seen plenty of these type of products over in the podcast: drone nests, drone launchers, ports, boats, etc. And the same happens with this, right? So maybe you have not yet been approached, but I'm very curious. Has this already been sort of seen, the potential, um, precisely of these sort of first responding, or emergency situations? Have they been used, your kids, because it just so happened that they were available during an emergency, or are there maybe any plans to address this market a little more formally?
Yeah. So I believe it was 2017 when Puerto Rico had the terrible storm and they had the power outage for months.
Hmm.
I mean, it disintegrated their power lines and their whole power system in general. We we partner with Home Depot. Home Depot has stores in Puerto Rico,
Mm.
and the buying team reached out to us and said, we need as much of your product as you can make available immediately because of this emergency. So we worked with Home Depot to get them as much of the product as we could. At the same time, that was the year we had our first solar light that was perpetual. It was
Mm.
a little solar lantern that would, very basic, but it would provide light and it would charge enough all day to run
Hmm.
all night. It was just the perfect simple product. And we had, I believe, a couple of thousand of them in inventory. So we donated those to the Puerto Rican people to help with the disaster. And
That's cool.
the responses we got from actual users and photos of just horrible photos of the situation,
Mm-hmm.
but there was like thank you letters and everything. It really, not only was it a feel good story, but it also, to your point, really stuck with us in terms of there is a bigger play here than just selling products through retailers. I will say from a business side, it's a different business
Of
model. When
course.
you're dealing with FEMA, when you're dealing with the military, when you're dealing, these are contracts. These you work through agencies. Um, it's certainly not impossible. It's just a different structure,
Of course.
and it's a structure that I feel we'll be ready for when we have enough products that really will help. Again, the last thing I want to do is supply a an area that's really in need of power, not just for lifestyle, but for literally
Yeah.
sometimes survival, that I believe won't actually do the job. And that's not a down take on nature power. That's just the technology of
Of
solar.
course.
It takes time for solar to create energy. Some of these people don't have time. And I want to make sure that whatever we're supplying with them will do what they're expecting it to do. And like I said, the line of solar fans will be launching in 2024. That is something that we will take to those areas because that for sure is going to be a great solution.
Wow, that is, I mean, that is worthy of an applause. It's very warming in a way to know that there are so many companies out there doing incredible tech that anybody can buy, but that also are being used when they're needed the most. So that well, that I congratulate you for. It is very cool. Um,
Thanks.
Now, keeping down this line of these sort of not a first response or the sort of emergency situations, but the fact that you can really reach many places of the world around the world. Um, I understand that this would also mean that the products are going to perform differently in these places. In the end, solar radiation isn't the same in North America, for example, than in
Right.
Asia or something, right?
Yep.
So how do you address this? Is this something that currently not on the radar for Nature Power, or do you already address this, saying, "Hey, if you're going to buy this to use in some other place, keep in mind that it's going to be performing differently"? Is this something that you take part of?
Um, I wouldn't say we focus too much on that. I would say more that we we tend to slightly underrate our products.
Hmm.
For example, and part of that is by circumstance. It's not by choice. And
Right.
I'll explain that. 5 years ago, a 12-inch by 12-inch solar panel might be 10 watts of solar at 12 volts.
Hmm.
Now, a 12-inch by 12-inch solar panel might be 14 watts of solar panel. So the efficiency of the solar cells has increased. The
Yes.
technology has really helped the efficiency. When you're selling at retail, you cannot keep changing the product you're selling them every week when you ship them product. They need some consistency,
Of
right?
course.
Like
Yeah.
like Apple doesn't have an Apple 400, right? They have an Apple 15 because they can't just keep changing it every 10 minutes. So we end up having to ship products that are actually more efficient than we promote them as, just because we happen to be making more efficient solar cells in this day and age.
Hmm.
We also want to make sure that a customer, when they get it and they're testing it, it tests to what the spec is and not 40% lower. So we kind of build in a buffer. And our international business is much smaller currently than our domestic
Hmm.
business, but we do sell into other countries. Uh, we also utilize amorphous technology, thin film, which we tend to use more in regions where they don't get as much sunlight,
Hmm.
uh, because it works better in low light conditions than
Yeah.
crystalline does. So we also pick and choose what type of products we ship to which geographical regions.
Oh, that's very clever. I didn't really expect that answer, but It's definitely better than what I expected. Thank you very much for sharing that. It's also really cool to know that there are products out there that might be advertised at 10 watts but are really 14. It's kind of like this happy surprise, right? In the end, for a consumer, of course, it's really cool. Now I know that we are getting into the final part of our interview. I just have a just two final questions, right? Because I want to
Sure.
poke your CEO part of all this, right? In the end, you're an entrepreneur. You have this incredible record, right? This journey that you have followed. The first question that I have about this is over these 12 plus years of Nature Power that you've been leading it, there have been plenty of developments of new products, as you mentioned. You have tried a lot of things. Some work, some don't. How do you keep a consistent, not only a consistent sort of a mentality of the team whenever something is not going as expected, but how do you also make sure that financially and also in terms of cash flow everything stays steady, right? Even during these times of maybe trying something that it ultimately doesn't work, or just
Right.
low times. How do you lead that?
Well, I mean, that's where you switch hats and you're no longer really a solar consumer product company. You're a business owner, and you you just need to follow, basic business mythology. I mean, if the market's slowing down, or if you feel like the trends around the world are unstable, then you need to hopefully be proactive as opposed to reactive.
Hmm.
Uh, that's the first thing. I would say the other thing is diversification. If we wanted, we could probably be fairly successful if we only supplied the RV and marine industry. They have very strong appetites for our product range, but we still branched out to the DIY, the Home Depots and Lowe's
Of
and
course,
Walmarts
yeah.
of the world, the Northern Tools. And furthermore, as to your point, we're looking at the FEMAs and, the US military as
Right.
options. We make products for a lot of large companies that you're familiar with. A lot of brands that you see in the stores, there are products. We make them for other people. And because we're known in the industry as a solid supplier and a manufacturer.
Hmm.
And all of those areas help diversify. So one of those areas might be struggling, whereas another one of those areas might be prospering. So it
Yeah.
all kind of balances out. We've also got a great team. Our team has been with us. I think the shortest person with us is more than 5 years. So we've got,
Wow.
you always build strength with your team the longer they've been with you.
Yeah.
And we work well together. We've got offices in Hong Kong, throughout Asia, Canada, US. So, we work with Mexico. We don't just work. We're not a typical company that only works, let's say, with China, for example.
Right.
We actually divested from China, and now we work more with other Asian countries like Vietnam and Taiwan, or we work with Mexico. We do things within the USA. So
Wow.
it's you've got to constantly try to be one or two steps ahead, but at the
Hmm.
same time, you're not always going to get everything right. So, we're more of a conservative company. We we get excited with new technology and new products, but we also slow ourselves down. And we're not really racing against other people. We're kind of racing against ourselves. And as a result, we have the flexibility and freedom to take our time, make sure the product's good quality, make sure that the market's going to receive it well, and launch it at a slower pace time, other than speed to market and just try to fill the market with products and hope for the best.
Wow, that's a very cool answer. I appreciate that a lot. In the end, it is what you mentioned, right? I believe that the key is that you always try to stay two steps ahead, right? Not
Yeah.
everybody is built for that, or not everybody knows how to do that. So it's very cool to know that this journey sort of expands this vision. And following along in this journey, I have my last question to you, which is, I mean, you know that there are many people out there who are starting their own journey, maybe building a company, maybe embracing the solar energy world or the renewable energy industry
Yep.
for that matter. Maybe they have an idea that they want to bring to life, embracing solar tech into some other consumer-based thing. There are many ideas out there. What advice would you give to these people to help them not only start their path, but to stay in path?
Don't take on too much at once. Focus on what your initial concept was and see it through. It might not work, but at least see it through to the end. Don't try to start 5 different things at once. But the number one thing I would say is listen. Listen to other people. Get advice. Just listen. The more information you gather, the better you can make an educated decision with less exposure.
Right.
Sometimes you get so deep into your own project that you lose sight of what actually makes sense. It might make sense to you, but it needs to make sense to everyone else. And so I would say listen. And I guess the other thing is not all great ideas will work out. Over the years, I've heard so many great ideas about how we should make something solar.
Right.
And in theory, of course, it makes sense. Why wouldn't a Tesla just run off solar panels? Like it's brilliant, right? But obviously the technology doesn't allow for that. So you've got to balance. And the other thing is, even if you used NASA quality solar, hypothetically, that could do it. No one's going to spend $19 million for a car. So you've got to balance a few things: the technology, the quality, the price, and can it be manufactured in a large scale?
Right.
But I would say you should try it. If you've got an idea and you think it makes sense, then try. Too many people have ideas that don't ever try to execute them. And
right.
I think, we all started with an idea. So why not give it a shot?
That's a very nice mentality. The sort of just make sure it sees the light, whether it goes out there or not. Make sure it sees the light is very nice.
Right.
Thank you very much for that, Dan. I believe that is the perfect way to put a ribbon and a closure into this interview. It was very nice. I appreciate it a lot. I believe I learned a lot, not only about solar power, but also about how it looks in the consumer market. So thank you very much for being here, sharing your experience, your thoughts, your knowledge. Where can we find you at Nature Power to continue with this? Can you give us your social media handles, please?
Yeah, the best way is just our website, naturepowerproducts.com. That will link you to our socials and to our customers. But essentially, you can get our products through retailers. You can reach out to us directly if you ever have any questions, and we answer questions about other people's solar panels too. I mean, we're trying to be helpful in general in the industry, and we also know that in the long term that comes back and pays dividends. So
it does.
It does. Reach out to us if you have any questions, and I also appreciate the time. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much, Dan. I did share your social media over here. Sorry, your website over here, so you can, everybody can float around and go to it. I have to say, it is a really cool website. You learn a lot in it. So thank you very much. It was our pleasure having you here. And remember, guys, that you can find more information, interesting articles, more interviews, short content, blogs, a lot of stuff on our website directly, buildernation.io, and as Builder Nation across all social media. We're going to love to hear from you. Thank you for being part of this community. Dan, thank you for joining us in this ride. We're so lucky to have you. Thank you very much, and we're going to see you the next episode.
Thanks, Sam.
When building the future is your priority, tedious procurement processes should be last on your list. The problem is that purchasing data is scattered across spreadsheets, receipts, emails, and messages. Tracking it all sucks and makes it easy to commit mistakes. Introducing the Control Hub Way, the all-in-one purchasing software for hardware companies. Buying parts, services, or office supplies? Submit a quick purchase request to buy from your list of approved vendors, or buy from a new provider. Buying from approved vendors is even easier. Import your shopping cart directly into your purchase request using our checkout integrations. When the order is ready, submit it for approval. We'll ping all pre-designated approvers both via Control Hub's website, email, and Slack notifications for a faster turnaround. If you need a PO, we got you. Generate it in one click. Online purchase? Boom, virtual card. Do an automatic 3-way match, pay invoices, and sync everything live with QuickBooks or NetSuite. Purchasing just got a lot easier. Control Hub. Get back to building.